Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Tanya Osborne, Director of Community at Women Grow. And today is the last day of Women's History Month for everybody else except Women Grow, because, we do it all year round. But in the end of the month, we wanted to come back and wrap it up with a really fantastic spotlight of some women in cannabis that are really doing some fantastic stuff. The International Women's History Month theme this month is about healing and hope. And I think that our audience, our panelists today are really true examples of using cannabis to heal and keeping science that keeps us hopeful. So I'm just going to tell you who they are, but then what we're going to do is I'm going to bring each person up one by one, but I definitely want to read you their bios to give them their full love so everyone knows exactly who they are. So first we have Moranda Bromberg. She's going to be we're going to do Danielle. Danielle is our first panelist. She's an entrepreneur specializing in the practice of trademark law in the cannabis industry and hosting cannabis-infused group fitness experiences in the Bay Area of California. She was born and raised in Hunters Point, San Francisco, and eventually moved to LA to attend law school, and in the evenings while working as a paralegal. She'd been a high school athlete and leaned into her fitness routine to get her through law school, where when she found more joy in the gym, she switched careers, as a lot of attorneys have done in the space. She transitioned into fitness as a personal trainer and a group fitness instructor. And as a result of the pandemic, Danielle was laid off and she went back to law school, law, and passed the California bar exam on her first attempt, and then began a solo practice in the cannabis industry, and built a lifestyle brand called Trap Vibes Fitness, which is based on her passions of cannabis and fitness. She partners with cannabis and fitness brands to host mind, body, and spirit experiences throughout California. And she also assists with trademark searching, registration, business format, all the good legal stuff that people in cannabis really need. So we're going to bring her up so she can give you a little bit of background and tell you all the fantastic stuff she is doing in the industry. Let's bring her up.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Women Grow, for having me. My name is Danielle Joseph. Thanks for the intro, Tanya. So I am an attorney and a fitness entrepreneur. My background is in personal training and group fitness experiences, and I always noticed a lack of the mental health education when we talk about fitness, and when we even look up the definition of fitness, it's all about the physical. And that's often what people were seeking, was the physical appearance that came with the fitness regimen. But I was always very passionate about mental health, always very passionate about cannabis and how the interplay of cannabis went very well with my fitness routine. So Trap Vibes Fitness was naturally born from my passion of wanting to infuse my fitness experience with cannabis, because I've always felt so much shame that came with that because of the stigma, whether it was at my workplace or even in my family and my friend groups, and in the world, in the society we live in. So Trap Vibes Fitness, the trap standing for taking risk and prospering, because that's really what the pandemic gave me, was the freedom to actually become an entrepreneur. And it wasn't really something that I was seeking or thought that I was ever capable of doing, because I was very comfortable in my routine of working for corporate America. I've worked at SoulCycle, Equinox, all the boutique fitness gyms, and I enjoyed it. But I knew that I didn't really fit in, and I knew that I wanted something beyond that. And when I was laid off at the outset of the pandemic, it gave me that opportunity, like, look, this is the time I need to build something that's for me, by me, and for people like me, whether it's cannabis enthusiasts, fitness enthusiasts, people of color. So I'm just showing that fitness can be more than just a gym. It can be fun. Fitness can be just picking up your baby. Fitness can be, being in a group and socializing and smoking with the homies. Fitness can be a book club. fitness is giving back and doing expungement clinics and using my legal background to actually do good in the community. So it's this idea of fitness being a lifestyle. So very passionate, very appreciative of the opportunity to be here, and really just would love the support, whether it's whether you're in the Bay Area and can attend our events in person, or wherever you are in the country and the world. We have a awesome online community where we do online fitness classes, whether it's on demand or live. And we also have a book club. I'm working with Minorities for Medical Marijuana, shout out M4MM, and we go state to state and do expungement clinics. So many ways to trap with us. I would love for you guys to follow us on Instagram. We're at Trap Vibes Fitness. Check out our website. And again, Women Grow, thank you so much for having me, Tanya. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us. I was on your website, and I love that you do virtual classes. So
yes,
we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to take you off, and then we'll intro our next guest, and we'll
see you soon.
Back and have a conversation. See you in a minute.
Okay.
So our next guest is Moranda Bromberg, is the founder and CEO of Hudson Valley Herbals, and her company is a hopeful recipient of a New York State recreational cannabis cultivation and processing license. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you too. Hudson Valley Herbals strives to be a sustainable, equitable, and women-run company offering sun-grown cannabis and crafting high quality, balanced products made to fit into your lifestyle with ease. Let me bring up Moranda. Hold on one second. I got too excited talking. 1 second. Let me bring her up.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Tanya, and thank you so much for having me, Women Grow. My name is Moranda Bromberg. I am the CEO and founder of Hudson Valley Herbals. I am a New York native and a lifelong cannabis enthusiast. I was formerly a marketing and social media professional, but I quit my job to focus on cannabis full time. My company is located in Ulster County in New York, 2 hours outside the city. Our property is incredible. It's 140 acres. It is a former dairy farm that's been owned by the same family for 100 years. And we plan to revitalize the land and restore it to its former glory. We want to create a sustainable and regenerative farm where cannabis can be grown in the sun, as we believe it should be, with both greenhouses and an outdoor grow in the summer season. We want to do this because it's incredibly more sustainable than the typical way that cannabis is grown. We are hopeful recipients of a cultivation and processing license. We are not currently operational, but in the pre-license phase, we are looking to connect with people who are interested in getting involved with sustainable cannabis cultivation and processing. As my background is in marketing, branding, and social media, those three elements will be super important to the growth of our brand, and we welcome anyone with experience to reach out to us. Our cannabis products aim to be accessible to users of all levels. Stoner culture often alienates beginners and nervous first-timers, so we aim to warmly welcome people into a safe cannabis experience. And we're so excited to share more as we get more details and the regs come out. You can follow us at Hudson Valley Herbals on Instagram. And thanks so much for having me, Tanya. I'm really excited for the conversation, and you can go ahead and introduce the next guest.
Thank you so much. I actually love, because when we spoke the other day, you said something that was really important to me, is you said that you wanted to also have low potency strains.
Yes.
And I think that that's a really fantastic way to have more people try cannabis if they're not, so it's a great conversation. We're going to talk about it more, but I just wanted to say how much I appreciated that. I'm going to bring up Dr. Vergara next. Thanks. I'll see you soon.
Great.
Okay. So this bio is long and I had to edit it because she's so amazing. So Dr. Daniela Vergara is an evolutionary biologist, data analyst, educator, scientific writer, and public speaker. In addition to her multiple publications, she founded and directs a nonprofit organization called the Agricultural Genomics Foundation, AGF. And that's also she'll tell you the website because I can't pronounce it right now. AGF aims to make hemp and cannabinoid science available to the broad public. And she recently joined Harvest New York, which is the extension team of Cornell University. So we're lucky because she was a West Coaster. So we have her on the East Coast now. And the goal is to help hemp farmers with their crop. And Dr. Vergara's scientific publications include the comparison of cannabinoids by federally produced cannabis to that produced by private market. She's an international consultant and a policy advisor and has advised companies in the US and Latin America and has worked as an expert witness for multiple legal cases in the US and abroad. She's a scientific writer in both English and Spanish, and we do work in Spanish for the broad public in Hispanic countries. Let us welcome up Dr. Vergara. Hold on one second.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me, Tanya. It's so nice to be again in touch with Women Grow. I was very involved in Women Grow when it started back in 2014 in Denver, and I was part of the first networking events. So it's really nice to be back. I recently moved from Colorado to New York State to work with the Cornell Cooperative Extension, and my work right now is helping the industry in New York State thrive and doing outreach and education, which I do both in English and in Spanish. But my work in Colorado at the University of Colorado in Boulder was genomics work, mostly looking at the genome, which is the DNA of multiple cannabis plants, including hemp and marijuana types. And I founded a nonprofit organization, the Agricultural Genomics Foundation, that aims on bringing science and science that is usually found in scientific journals, bringing it to a broad public. We have a podcast called Cannabis Science Today. We have classes that we teach at CU Boulder. And so so right now I'm focused on doing more scientific outreach and bringing science to the public. And I also do consulting work and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vergara. I'm going to bring everybody up and we're going to chat. Glad you made it back, Danielle. I saw you popped off for a minute.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wrong button.
Oh, okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining us. Yes, we are wrapping up Women's History Month for the general population. For us, it's Women's History all year round. But for each of us, we all came to cannabis for a certain reason. I think we know more, Danielle, what yours was a love of cannabis, and then you kind of worked in it. The comments were great because they were like, we love it, law student by day, cannabis entrepreneur by night. And a lot of folks have to do it that way. I mean, a lot of business people do it that way. Like, that's just what people do. But for Moranda, why did you want to get into this industry?
So I've been a lifelong cannabis enthusiast, but I didn't work in cannabis until I traveled the country and I ended up in Oregon, and I worked on recreational and medical cannabis farms. And I kind of fell in love with the community that I was in, which was in Southern Oregon. It's a very rural community, super beautiful, a lot of agriculture there. And I was told by a lot of locals how much the cannabis industry had helped lift their county out of this really decade-long economic depression, not only by providing cannabis jobs, but also new businesses cropped up, farms that formerly couldn't even stay open could now grow cannabis to supplement their other growing vegetables and fruit. And there were so many more opportunities for locals. And after noticing in New York, when I moved back to New York State, because I'm a New York native, I was brought upstate by my partner because he has a home there. And I noticed how much farmland and open space there was, and that cannabis would be an incredible tool for our area and could stimulate economic growth that our area really needs. I got really passionate about making it happen in New York. And when the MRTA passed, I was like, okay, we're doing this full force. I quit my job. So yeah, that's how I got.
That's exciting. That's very exciting. Thank you for sharing that. So Dr. Danielle, I know you've been in the science realm. Was cannabis science always where did the interest come? I'm really curious about that.
So when I graduated from my PhD in 2013, and we moved to Colorado. And that was the year that cannabis became legal. So I was living in Denver during the first recreational sales, and I was gonna work. I was interested in learning bioinformatics and how to analyze genomes, and I joined the lab of my postdoc advisor at CU Boulder in 2013 when I moved to Colorado, and I was gonna work with sunflowers, but at the time they were legalizing cannabis, and the truth is that we moved to Colorado because cannabis was legal in Colorado, and, and it wasn't legal in Indiana, where we were living back then. It's not legal in Indiana still.
Yeah, right.
No surprise. But yeah, so I started. I was gonna work in sunflowers, and then I was like, like the transition was kind of like, well, that's not gonna happen. So I started working in cannabis back in 2013, doing cannabis research back in 2013.
Yeah. I mean, if I had the choice of sunflowers or cannabis, I'd probably pick cannabis too. That's just my personal, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a good choice, not only because, like cannabis is really fun, but also because the cannabis genome is much smaller than the sunflower genome. So it's actually easier to work with.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a good choice in many different aspects, and no one had done. So I was very surprised when I was like, okay, let's look at what's out there regarding cannabis genomics. And it's like, there were so many things that were not done. And so everything was new, every single question. And still there's so many things that are not done. So yeah, so that's how it started back in 2013 in Denver.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Okay. So everyone thinks that when you get into the cannabis industry, boom, everything's wonderful and fantastic and nothing goes wrong. And I don't like to harp on challenges. Like, if you know me, like, tell me what the problem is, but I don't want to hear about it again. Let's just fix it. But I also know that I don't want people to have, false expectations. And so could you just what were any setbacks or challenges that you experienced? We're going to talk about the good stuff too, but what were any challenges that you, or even if we're family, that pushed back at you getting in the industry? Danielle?
Yeah, the stigma was the biggest challenge. Aside from the business part of it and dealing with a medicine that is still considered illegal in many states and in our federal government, right? So there's a whole bunch of different obstacles that come with that, but more it's about the stigma. And that's where I had to take a step back, ooh, the brand is fun. I'm trying to create fun experiences for people, but I have to even go back and start with education, right? And actually, do my due diligence and learn more about the plant. And, we're talking about fitness and health. So it's important to really show people the benefits and then realize that it's not for everybody, right? There's some people that just want to show up for a pure workout class and just want to move with people. Right. And we respect that. We want to have, experiences for consumers and non-consumers alike. But I think the stigma for sure was the biggest challenge. Even within my own friend group, a lot of people are just like, hold on, we're talking about health, but you smoke. I don't get it. How does this go together?
Right. And then people also don't understand different levels of consumption,
and all the different methods of consumption.
There's a lot of ways to consume that don't involve combustion. So there's still a lot of.
We're not always smoking. We're drinking. We're eating. We're doing topicals. We
went to a dinner party last night.
Use dinner parties. Yes.
It's just so wonderful that, because honestly, we've been doing Cannabis 101s since I joined the market professionally. And I think we're going to be doing Cannabis 101s for a long, long time. And I'm okay with it. I'm really okay with it, because the more people we have educated, the better. So, Dr. Daniela, what, if any, pushbacks or challenges did you experience for entering into the industry?
Well, okay. I've been working in university since forever. I've never left a university. That is a challenge, right? Right now, now I work for Cornell, right? So so I cannot and then I was working at CU Boulder before, right? So I cannot touch any sort of high THC plants during my working hours. It was really easy when I was in CU Boulder because I was doing bioinformatics, so I just dealt with genomic data. I didn't know at the beginning when I started working back in 2013 that my first year of work was going to be dealing with CU's lawyers and what can I do, what can I not do, what can I say, what can I not say, how can I download data, like even like that, like I'm not touching a plant, I'm just downloading genomic data into my computer. Is that going to be a problem? So that was a challenge. And now at Cornell, it's a similar situation. I can advise people that are growing hemp, right, and high CBD, which the government is coining hemp, but it's really low THC marijuana, like biologically, right? It's really low THC marijuana. So I cannot really advise on how to grow high THC. I can advise on how to grow for high cannabinoids. It's up to you which cannabinoid it is, right?
your pushback is really not stigma, but bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Completely. And the words that I use and what can I say, what can I not say? And then, and then right now in New York State, because the laws are just coming out, the situation is different than in Colorado because hemp is legal and now marijuana is becoming legal. In Colorado, it was the opposite. Marijuana became legal and then hemp became a thing. So it was really funny for me, there was a dispensary 2 blocks away from CU Boulder. Like I could walk to the dispensary, but I could not, you could see it like from, those things are just, that is my issue.
Wow.
Like, I did not run into, or I don't know if I've run into stigma. Maybe I'm oblivious into that stigma, because I have university bureaucracy.
Right. You're just dealing with it all. You're just like, I don't worry about you. I got to worry about my job.
That part.
I get that 100%. How about you, Moranda? Any pushback that you had when you said you wanted to start a hemp farm?
Yeah, I think for a cannabis farm, it's different because your municipality can't prevent you from starting a farm, which I think a lot of people don't realize. So you can, any town that you're in, you can start your cultivation or processing business, but you want to make sure that your town board, your village board, the people who are going to be approving your process for your plans to build whatever facility that you need, they need to be on board and they need to understand cannabis. And there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of stigma, and dare culture has like infiltrated everything. And people just believe things that aren't true about cannabis. And education, as Danielle said, is like a huge part of it too. It's like you have to educate people who are willing to be educated,
right.
And educate yourself on the benefits to cannabis and the benefits that recreational cannabis has brought to areas, because there are a lot of those benefits, not just like higher paying jobs, but reduced opiate use, which is a problem in many communities. And
very big.
Less overdoses, less drunk driving. There's a lot of benefits to recreational cannabis that people don't realize. And I think people are surprisingly more open-minded to understanding those benefits. You just have to meet them where they are, with compassion, and they're much more likely to,
100%. I agree with that, because you had people that, especially because I'm a caregiver here in New York State, and I've had folks that are trying cannabis because nothing else is working for them. I don't like cannabis to be a last ditch effort, but then sometimes it is, and then they try it and they're like, well, what the heck was I waiting for? And I'm like, I have no idea, so but it is these conversations to allow people you meet them where they are. You have to do that. Yeah. They can't cannabis shame people because we don't like it, so we don't like it. We can't do it to other people, so it is a form of compassion. Okay. Yeah. So
if I can I say something there? I hear you, and it's, like for me, it's kind of like, why are we not doing it at higher education institutions? People are asking for this. People need to be educated, and it's tough, it's tough, and so, but yeah, I completely agree, and I'm sorry for that. And
no, it's true. And I know here in New York, we have a couple of colleges that are having more like a certificate program, or they're doing some sort of cultivation or what they consider like cannabis business. I've seen it and I think it's great, but we do have to have more conversations about, like we're talking about here, plant medicine, like understanding the benefits, for the plant. I'm a big patient proponent. I want patients to always be first. So we know there's always the joke about cannabis. 1 year in the cannabis industry is like dog years. So if you've worked in cannabis for 1 year, it's like you're having 7-year education. um, and I've been here professionally for almost 7 years. And what keeps me here is, the patience, and helping people and seeing someone who's cannabis naive learn. And I really geek out on that stuff, So my question is, what is it that keeps you here? And I'll start with Moranda.
I think for me, one of the most rewarding things is watching people who are nervous about cannabis find a way to utilize it in their life in a positive way. It's a communal plant and it's always been used that way. So watching my family members use it to help them sleep, or elderly people I know who I've suggested products that they can use to ease their pain. And even just like friends who've had paranoid or anxiety inducing experiences with cannabis, and they try the right product and now it helps them ease their anxiety. Those type of things, finding the right cannabis product for specific people and people having access to that now, is incredible. Like beyond the therapeutic benefits, the communal aspect of sharing a joint or sharing a smoke session amongst friends can be so joyful. And that's something I think that sometimes gets lost. And just seeing people enjoy cannabis on the streets of New York together and destigmatizing it by making it more public and more known and casual, is really refreshing and healing, and definitely one of the things that keeps me in the industry.
Yeah, the cannabis community is tight. We're welcoming more if you want to become a part. How about Dr. Daniela? What keeps you in this industry?
So many things. I think first it was like, wow, I cannot believe that hasn't been done. And wow, I cannot believe that there's, like no genome assembly and there's no genetic map and there's no, like at the beginning it was that, but now I think that besides that, and besides, I think that there's a lot of things that I could do, like now with my job, like I feel like I have the opportunity to talk to people about a paper that I wrote. And what does that mean? Like the people really, no one really reads scientific literature. It's not available for people. It's written in a way that it's not available for people. And now I'm learning how to make that available. And I like that, like I think that there is a lot of scientific illiteracy, and it's becoming political, right? Like we can see it with COVID and vaccines and stuff. Like it is political. So I think that is important. And I also think that for me, as Latina, it's breaking a stigma, and it's breaking kind of like, like who is a scientist? What do scientists do? How do scientists look like? All of those things, it's breaking a stigma, and it's breaking a stigma with cannabis. And so I think that is really interesting and important. And also because I can do it in my native language, right? For the first time, people are interested in me speaking Spanish, right? So that for me is important as well.
Actually, like all of it, thank you so much, that was fantastic. All of us in this industry is really breaking stigma, like just us being here, because we're a pretty diverse group of women right now, you know what I mean? And us being here is breaking the stigma. So that's why Women Grow is always going to ride hard for women, because we need women in this space. Thank you. So Danielle, what keeps you in this industry?
I have to take the breath like Dr. Daniela too, because so many things, right? I've loved on this plant for so long, and I just started learning about the medicinal properties. I just learned about what the endocannabinoid system is. I just learned that every time I indulge in a smoke session, this is actually medicine. This is actually therapy. I was all into getting high. But that transition was like, oh, this is something that I'm actually doing for my mental health. This is something that feeling good is okay. This is a part of my fitness. And so really owning who I was. And then like Miranda said, being able to actually recommend products with the understanding like, look, what works for me, because I really do this, you know, so what works for me might not work for you.
Right.
And we're both going to be okay with that. But when you find something that actually hits and that person is appreciative, I remember when my parents, both of my parents, you know, don't consume at all, but I gave them a really nice topical. And, you know, instead of going for the ibuprofen and the Advil, now they'll look at the cannabis gel or lotion to ease
Exciting.
their pain. So it's that for me. You know, that's when
Yeah,
it's like life changing. It's it's an alternative for some, but it's my primary source of medicine.
I agree
So
with
being
that.
able to share it with people is what keeps me going for sure.
You said
Yeah.
something really great, and is that you didn't know that the medical side of it because you were a consumer. You know what I mean? You
Exactly.
consumed. And I
Yeah.
have to tell you a funny thing. One of my doctors back in the day gave me the language when she was like, you know, I said, I need something to sleep. I says, I can't smoke all this. I just can't smoke all this. Like, oh, she goes, how often do you smoke? I says, I really just smoke at night to help me sleep. And she said these words. She goes, oh, so you're self-medicating. And I'm like, and I was in my 20s and I am not anymore. So this was many years ago. And that really gave me the language to really, yeah, no, I'm self-medicating. I have incredible anxiety and this helps me manage. And I think that a lot of people, and in being Caribbean, you know, it was not, don't let them fool you. My Jamaican family was not in favor of my cannabis consumption at all. I have a little bougie family. They were not impressed, you know.
Yeah,
So
mine neither.
they were not impressed at all. So that stigma from my family and then my own personal, this doctor really changed my whole mindset by just telling me that, oh, you're doing stuff to help yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that that's a conversation that we have to talk to people about. It's not what you think. You know, this can actually help you. Again, if you work in the science and you have somebody coaching you and you have somebody working with you, that's really what we all need, you know?
Yes.
And then my last question, we might actually end short, but I think we did great because this is a lot of fantastic information. I always ask everyone that we talk with is there's another generation. There's some young people right now who really want to get into this industry. So the question would be, what would you tell the next generation of cannabis leaders? Like, what advice would you give them? I'll start with Dr. Daniela.
I was hoping for you to call me last because I was that's such a hard question. What would I tell them? I think that there is so many things to do. You know, like when Danielle said that you know, like her parents are now going for the cannabis instead of ibuprofen or whatever. I think that there is so much to do regarding the medical aspect, and I think that traditional medicine, for example, has always been kind of like, okay, you take this pill every 6 hours and it has this amount. And with cannabis, it's not that way. And I think that it was either Danielle or Moranda that mentioned that what works for me doesn't work for you and vice versa, right? Like for me, I don't know, I rather the cookie and you rather the joint, right? Or I don't know. So I think that for the first time, and it's really interesting because the plant does not produce just one compound, it produces a bunch of different compounds in different ratios. And it not only depends, you know, like on the nature but also on the nurture, right? Genes and environment, they work together. So if I grow it under this light, it's going to be different than if you grow it under out on the sun, like Moranda's planning on doing. So I think that there's a lot of work to do there. I think that there's a lot of work to do for traditional medicine. We know that when you isolate THC alone, people do not like it. So this entourage effect, that it's a proposal right there, I think that it may be a thing, right? It may be all of these compounds interacting in different ratios, and maybe the joint I smoked yesterday makes me feel different today. We don't know that. We don't know whether that same joint is going to act different on you. We don't know that. So there's a lot of unknown questions. So I think that it's, for the next generation, it's be prepared to answer all of this. Be prepared to have open minds about what you're going to find. Be prepared to, and not only in the science part, but also in the social part, right? Like be prepared to be working with people that think different from you, that look different from you, that, you know, that are coming from different backgrounds. Like I think that this is coming, and I think it's not only on cannabis, but we also see it in psilocybin, for example. It's opening new doors, right? And it's opening new doors for a bunch of different people that think differently and that are coming from different perspectives. And I think that I think that it's kind of like keep an open mind of what's going to happen. And life is messy. Like you never know what's going to happen. I thought that I was in Colorado for the rest of my life. Right. And now I'm here, and now I'm doing something completely different. And you never know where the industry is going to take you. You never know. So it's kind of like keep an open mind, I guess.
That was fantastic.
Yes, that was excellent.
Yes.
I second everything Dr. Daniela
Like,
said.
I'm going to call my son. I'm like, you should be a scientist. I'm going to introduce you to us, because he loves science. I'm like, botany? Did you say genome science? That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. How about you, Moranda? What would you tell the next generation of cannabis leaders?
I think one of the biggest things I'd say is that this is such a new industry. And if you think you're like late or you're behind, there's always time to get involved and get experience. And there's enough room for everybody. Things are always changing. We don't have to do things the way that other people have done it in other states. Like we can grow outdoors in the sun. We can, think about, the entourage effect, as you were saying. Like there are so many different ways to approach cannabis. And I would also say that it's so important to get involved in your community. Wherever you plan to open your business, you want to talk to locals, you want to speak to your neighbors, and you want to offer them information and education when they're willing and interested, because that's how we'll break the stigma, is bringing people into understanding through compassion, first and foremost, I think. And I also think we should look at each other as potential collaborators and supporters, and not as competitors, because all women need to lift each other up. And like we
Preach, girl.
Yeah. We can all support each other. We can all benefit from this like amazing plan. Yeah.
And considering you're in New York, like I am, and Dr. Daniela, we do have the country covered because you're right across on the other side, Danielle. But New York is going to be special because it's different from Colorado. We have different challenges. We have built a community even before legalization happened. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. Thank you so much for sharing that. Danielle, how about you wrap us up? What is
I don't have anything to add. They hit everything. No, but to sum it all up, to both of their points, education, activism, advocacy. I think really, I see a lot of people jump in cannabis because they're money motivated. It's trendy, it's cool, and it's all those things. But I would encourage the next generation to really just start with doing the research. That's what we need right now, and just educating yourself and sharing that education with your community and partnering.
Because you do trap vibes fitness, and you also do expungement clinics.
And I also practice law. Yeah. You can do it all. We're women.
And that's what I love. So, and I always tell people, advocacy is the least expensive business you could do. Like, I mean, unless you're a lobbyist, but if you're an advocate and you want to go talk to your legislators and build a community around this, that doesn't cost you any money. And it honestly, every business person should be an advocate for a community, for the plant, for the patients. And I think that that's why we're all here today, is because we're aligned. Yes, doctor. So regarding what you said about New York State being different, I think for the next generation, it's gonna legalize federally at some point, hopefully soon. And I feel that yes, New York is looking at what the other states did,
and trying to do something different and trying to do something inclusive, right? I found that the laws, for example, Daniela, I don't know if you've been following the laws in New York, but for example, there's a law here that it's
A little bit.
giving priority to people that have had prior convictions to
Right.
apply for the adult use licenses,
Right.
which I found amazing. So I do think that for the federal level, we could take those things into account. Like, again, there are, for example, right now in Colorado, there are monopolies that are being formed. There are like 3 companies that own 90% of the business, and New York State is trying to avoid those monopolies from forming. And I think that could be a possibility. And I don't know if I'm just being a hopeless romantic and I'm being kind of
I'm
like,
with you. I'm with you. Let's dream it into reality. Let's manifest it. So.
Yeah, but I do think that those things could be inclusive and could be a possibility, and making it different from like big pharma or big tobacco, right? Like I do think that depending on how we shape things and who owns the IPs and who owns the data, right? I think that could be a possibility.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Thank you so much. I think we have given them all we got. Right? Anything you want to wrap? Oh, let's just do this. Tell everybody where to find you, just so you could say it. I know they could read it, but just tell everybody where to find you, Moranda.
You can find me at Hudson Valley Herbals on Instagram or our website.
Fantastic. Dr. D?
My website is vergarascience.com. And then you'll find my information about my nonprofit there. But also, if you Google Cornell Extension and Vergara, you'll find me. My team is Harvest New York, but you'll find me there too.
Perfect. Thank you. And Danielle?
You can find me at www.trapvibesfitness.com. That's our website. And then we're also on Instagram and Facebook at Trap Vibes Fitness. And then Danny Trademarks for all your cannabis legal.
Oh, love that. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Daniela Vergara, Moranda Bromberg, and Danielle Joseph for joining us today. And we will see you shortly. And, we'll be back with another spotlight. Take care, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.